Good morning and welcome back to Planner Craft. I'm Natalie and today we're going to be doing a bit of poppy work. So I'm planning to be here until about 10 o'clock. So I have a layered poppy stencil and the layering poppy stamps, and I'm going to be working with those today. I've also pulled out some texture paste and some vintage paste that we can use. I want to work with some inks and possibly some sprays, but we'll see how we go for that. So please do say hi and let me know that you're watching and that you can hear us all okay. And then we'll get started. And good morning, Thea. Morning, Carol. No sound. Why is the sound not working? There is sound my end. That is weird. Let's have a look, see what's going on. Hello. Yep, and that's going through to the right mat. And I can see it going up and down on my sound thing. Thea, can you hear me? Because this is saying that everything is alright. Migraine is okay. Not sure why there's no sound though. Okay, Thea can hear me loud and clear, Carol can't. Thea, could you just drop Carol a comment, just making sure that she hasn't got her laptop or anything muted, because everything this end is up, same as it was the other day, which is quite bizarre. And morning, Linda. So I'll get started once I know everybody can hear me. So Carol, hopefully you can hear me now, maybe. Sometimes there's like a little speaker icon in the bottom right corner on Facebook that you can use to mute it by accident. Morning, Joyce. I do hope Carol's laptop's speakers haven't failed. And morning, Mum. So yes, poppies today because of course it's Remembrance Day here in the UK. So I'm going to start off with the stencil. That's good, I'm back. I wish you could refresh me, Carol. So while the migraine is much better than it was yesterday, I still feel a bit, oh, best way I can put it. Not entirely with it. Okay, so first of all I'm going to work on to some mixed media card, and I am working on a messy mat today. You may have reinvented me. And to start with, I'm going to use just some texture paste, and I'm going to pull out my stencil. Now this is where you are probably going to want to use a little masking tape. So yes, the Korea tape comes in very handy for this one. And I'm going to put this down either side of these stands in the middle to start with. Now, because we've got that little bit in the middle, I'm just going to tear that in half. Let's get this side of it with that bit. And like that there. Then we can position it on our card where we want it. So I'm going to go back there. Now we are going to want to leave these to dry. So if they don't dry before we get to the end of this first session, I can always do a little bit of work on them in the next one, as long as head stays well behaving. Otherwise I'll be back to not doing this and going back to the book for a bit. Okay, so I'm just going to put the thick texture paste over the top of the stem. And same here. Like so. Put any excess back in your pot, because there's no point wasting it. Put the lid back on for a moment, and I'm going to carefully peel that off. And there we go. So my advice would be is, if you want to do the poppy flowers as well, let that dry fully. So if you want to get your heat gun and dry that, but you want it to be solid enough that when you put your stencil back over, you're not going to smudge it. But the other thing to bear in mind is it is going to be slightly raised. So when you come to doing your stencil, you're going to want to make sure that, let's say, your stem's coming up to this flower here. You're going to want to make sure that that bit there is sealed down to your card enough that it's not going to slip under. Okay, so I'm going to set that to one side for a bit and let that dry. Let's pull out another card. And this time, let's think, how shall I do this? Let's go for our stems first again. And this time, rather than using the thick texture paste, I'm actually going to go for a coloured texture paste. So this is Gritty Vintage Paste, which, you can see the colour of it. The colours tend to be pretty accurate for what you see in the pot to what they dry to. So there are a range of colours. You've got some pastel colours, and then you've got your deeper blues and purples. Now, what I would say is, even with the foil in, you can find that you have to dig a little bit to get a good mix. So don't be afraid to get your palette knife in there, give it a good stab and a good mix before you try and scrape any out. So let's get some out of there now. Okay, I'm just going to take that across and down. Now this one is going to be considerably grittier than your thick texture paste. So you can hear it's going and that's normal. It's not that you've done anything wrong. Okay, and now for this next bit. Now with larger areas, you want to have a bit of a lighter hand, because that's the ones that are more likely to kind of seep under. Whereas when we're working with little sections, you can kind of go straight up. Come on, off you come. There you go. And we can scrape that off like so. Just try and get that a little bit down the bottom. And back into our pot. Okay. And gently lift that off too. Now before I go too far, I'm just going to peel off my masking tape, because I want to swap it around a little bit, and I want to use this little swirly bit here. So, and let's pop that bit that way. So the idea being that we're just blocking off the bottoms of those stems. So if I bring that over here a bit, like so. And we can actually start to use those in our layout. So I'm just going to very carefully put that one there. Now bear in mind what I said about the texture paste. So this is still a bit wet, so we might flatten some of these bits here, but we can always bring in some little textural elements over the top to disguise that. So this colour is apple. More on there. I'm being a bit stingy. And it's a bit like buttering toast really. So if you can butter toast, you can do this. So I'm going to be doing a few different panels today, and then you can have a go yourself, and please do post what you are making on the group. And I believe with all the new fandangled stuff that Facebook have brought in, you can actually post to this class too. So if you are watching on YouTube or watching on Twitch or watching on the main page on Facebook, if you go into events on our Facebook page, you'll find today's class, and you can actually go in there and load that up. Okay. So now I'm going to grab a little kitchen towel, and you're going to want to just dampen this down a little. That off. There we go. So you can see that one is a bit more resilient when it comes to layering than the thick one. So let's get some water onto this. I'm just going to spray my stencil as well, and then we can give it a good clean. So all the masking tape can go straight in the bin. And then we can use our damp kitchen towel to get off all the excess off our spatulas and things. So it is quite important that we get this clean before it sets too much. But if you do accidentally let it dry on your stencil, washing powder is your friend. It's going to help you get that off there. Okay. So nearly done. Everything else that's left on there can be soaked off later. There we go. So let's clean the desk, and I'm going to bring it in a blending mat next. So with our blending mat, this is when we use our inks and things to create a nice background. Oh, I know what I meant to ask. Is the connection better today by any chance? So I'm going to pull out the same inks that I was using on Tuesday. Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday. Which is the Distress Oxides in Candied Apple, Antique Linen, Cracked Pistachio and Rustic Wilderness. And I'm going to be using the blending brushes too. So I thought this would create a nice gradient that we could use in the background. Now this is quite a big area to cover with this poor little blending brush, but we'll see how we go. Okay, remember to come in from a different place each time if you can help it, so that you're getting a nice even coverage. I always think blending these things is a bit like spraying a car when I think that you want to spray paint. You kind of need to take it off the edge before you change direction, otherwise you get like a darker edge here and here. So you can tell when I'm rushing because I don't do it. Okay, so I think that's enough of that red. Now, just because I'm going to be going to a lighter colour, I am very quickly going to clean off my mat. So, bamboo cloth time. That's good to know then, Linda. So, yeah, yesterday, when I really wasn't feeling up to it, Mr. Openreach came round, well, not round, but out the back, and I was like, ah, so that's why my internet was playing up. It's one of those. Okay, so now I'm going to go to Antique Linen. And I'm going back over that edge because I want to blend it in. And it's actually going to pick up some of that red as well, so that we're going to create a soft ombre. So this is much easier to do with oxides than it is with inks. For those of you that may be wondering why I'm using oxides to do this rather than inks. And the mixed media has like a tooth to it, so it tends to need something that's a little bit easier to blend. Okay, now I'm going to go to my Cracked Pistachio. Let's grab my green brush. Now remember how I said this one is actually much stronger than what I wanted it to be. I'm going to use little and often. Try and keep it a bit softer. God blimey, time is flying today. More just down towards this bottom section where it's going to start blending into our Rustic Wilderness, so that it has that kind of green to soften the transition. Okay, take that colour back up. Now, before I go and do the Rustic Wilderness, I'm just going to hop back to Antique Linen before I get that strong colour on my mat. And I'm just literally going to just go back into that middle section and then start to drag it down into that cracked pistachio so that we start to blend that a little better. Finally, I'm going to finish with my Rustic Wilderness. Oh no, Tracy, your comments haven't been coming through. Okay. Okay, so with that done, I'm going to just give that a quick clean. So when it comes to your blending mats, you don't want things like your texture paste or your gel mediums to touch. So it's always a good idea to just clean it off and set it to one side if you're going to be going back to those. Oh, Tracy, I'm sorry to hear that. I would have said hi. Okay. Now, you've got two options at this point. You can mask it and use more inks, or we can go back to our texture paste. So I'm thinking, let's go texture paste and let that one dry. Or you can actually go to Picket Fence Distress Ink or any white ink pad. I'm just going to pop that there. Okay, so let's grab that one. And I'm going to go for Picket Fence, I think, just because of time. I want to get on, show you a little bit of the stamping in this section. So I'm just going to brush through our white. Now, the only thing that is really giving away how much ink we're actually putting down is your masking tape. So that's why it's a good idea to use a coloured one, because you can get a bit of a misleading impression when you're colouring, especially when you've used oxides, because you do get a certain amount of transfer of colour through your white ink. So you can be thinking, oh, I'm really not getting much of an impression here. But then when you come to peel it off, you can be a bit surprised. So if I do that, you can see we've got the start of our design, and we can even, let's swap that round there, and create a little border using that swirl design at the bottom. It's okay, it can feel up if it wants to. Okay, so now you can really start to see that coming along. Now I'm going to flick it over, and it's not going to be an exact match, so I'm not going to even attempt it because can get it quite centered in the first place. So let's go there. Okay, so we've got a kind of texture in there. So let's close that up because we don't want our ink to dry out. And let's bring in the candied apple. So let's work out where I want this to go. And I'm kind of looking at this little bit of a stem here as to where I'm thinking I'm going to put this. And I'm thinking just there. Just going to press that down lightly. So hopefully it should stay a little bit put. And I'm going to ink it up with the candied apple. So again, we're going candied apple onto candied apple, so it's not going to look like it has done very much. But hopefully, if I peel it up, you can see we've got a bit of a stronger patch of colour there. Now, if you want to kind of deepen that a little bit, you can take a bit more colour. And we can concentrate it in a little area, like just here, so that when we actually stamp on the top, you can get a little bit of shading. So it might not come across very clearly on the video, but just so that you've got like a darker section just there. So then if you wanted to, you could flip that over and do it with stencil. Or my plan is, yeah, I have a plan. Sorry for disturbing work. But yes, if you have the stencil, you should have the matching stamps because they were on the front of the magazine. But I do like my Altenew, but they are quite expensive. So on your stamp set, you have this little poppy flower here. Now the stem, you're not going to go quite where I want it, but we'll see. Ooh. There we go. So I've got that one. Let's put that there for a minute. I'll probably go and sit on it, but so I want that to be stamped in the right place. But then this stem here isn't going to get to where I want it, so I'm actually going to have to stamp it twice. So you're going to get your stamp platform, and we're going to pop in our card. And let's get the magnets out from underneath, like so. And let's get that up there a little bit so you can see it a little bit easier. And move those out the way for a second. Okay. So first of all, I'm going to position my poppy, and you're going to look through your stamp, and you're going to look for those points that kind of line up. So around here, up here, and underneath here. We're going to change this because I've been doing too many rubber stamps recently. There we go. I always forget when I go back to doing clay stamps. Okay. Lift that up. Now when we're inking, you're going to want to use a good hybrid ink. and you're going to ink up just that flower. I'm going to grab a cotton wool bud and very carefully just remove any ink that's gone on that stem, because we know the stem is in the wrong place. We can then close it up and stamp the flower head. Okay, check impression. Very slightly off, Natty. Oh well. And what I would say is just give your stamp a very quick clean with your bamboo. I can't see if you're looking today. Over there we go. And over the top, line up down the stem, pick it up. Now this time we're going to ink up just the stem, so just try to see if I can get that in shot better for you. Up a little bit. There we go. So just ink up the stem, and again, if you need that cotton bud, just clean up any that was on the flower. Okay, just going to clean up some of the excess down there too, like so, and there we go, and we have our first poppy. So now we might go, okay, so I've done that poppy, but I'd really like to put another one in, but there isn't one that matches what I want to do. I'm sure there is. So if we go back to our set of stamps here, let's go and grab a stem. Now this stem is thicker. Ooh. So it can be a bit stronger, which means it's going to be more in the foreground. So whereas we've got these two that are offset like this, we can either go lower or in the middle, or we can pop it over to this side. So I think I'm going to come over this side like so, and let's see which way around is going to work better. I think I'm going to go with that one. Now, you could go for the black, or you could go for the Rustic Wilderness at this point. I think I'm going to go for the black. So, being a bolder stamp, try swiping the ink and tapping it. And it should get a better coverage. There we go. One stem. And again, give it a quick clean. So all I'm using to clean my stamps is just a damp bamboo cloth. I don't use any stamp cleaner. I just find that helps the stamps last a little longer that way. Okay, so let's pop that one on there too. Now I'm going to go for the solid stamp. And again, this time, let's see which way we want to go. Let's go this way. So, because you've got this little notch just here, if you try and fit your stamp into that notch, there we go. What you can do, couple of impressions, so swipe, tap. So this one's going to be much stronger in colour. Okay, so with that nose stamped, let's give that a quick wipe. And you have a choice. You can use the layering stamps on the sheet, or we can try the stencil. So let's see if this stencil will fit for us a bit better. There we go. So if we go for this one, and let's go to a slightly darker colour, and I'm going to grab Aged Mahogany. Now you want to make sure that you use a different brush, just so you're not going oxide to ink. I'm just going to use a little oval brush. I'm going to hold that stencil in place and then go like so. That's going to pull the details out of the stencil, and then we can go in with a black felt tip or fine liner to just add one last bit of detail. Okay, so we've got a stronger poppy there. And set that to one side for a moment, and let's pull out our seed head stamp. I'm just going to go for the lines on this one, just because I want it to be more like it's a hint in the background kind of thing, rather than putting a solid stamp on. Because if we were to put a solid stamp on at this point, it's actually going to go over the stem of our one in front, which could look a little odd. So if we look at where we've stamped, we've got a little bit here where we want to miss. Okay, so if I put that back over there, you can see there's like the line there. It's going to go through that stamp. So it's in the bottom of the V and in the bowl of the flower that we want to miss. But everything else we can go for. So if I stamp all the way over the top of my ink, like so, I can use my cotton wool bud to very carefully remove that section. Now check. And that looks pretty alright. And let's go for it. And there we go, not bad at all. So if you want to add any extra colouring, you can do. But I think for that, that's going to be nice and soft enough. So there's our first panel. So we've used our picket fence at the bottom to do almost like a resist. So it almost looks like it's bleached, and that's just using the picket fence through a stencil. Okay, and same with these bits here. Now what I will do before I go too far, just sort out the centre of my poppy so that you can see me do that. And I'm going to grab a brush pen and just literally fill in that detail there. And we can come along in here, use the brush to do a nice variable line, so we're going to vary our pressure. Now bear in mind, because you're working over oxides, you are going to get your colours lift a little. So your black line is going to be softer. So then we can go around the outside if you want to. Don't have to do it all over, because this one's all hit and miss too. Don't even have to do it precisely on the edge if you don't want to. And there we go. So if there's bits in this stamping that you don't think are dark enough, you can actually do the same with that one too, and it will help blend the two images together. Like so, a bit more this way. And a bit more underneath. And a bit more in there. And just down there. Then we can do a little bit of line work onto our stems as well, like so. And that bit just there. You can even put a little bit just down the bottom so they feel a bit more grounded. So just a little bit of line work like that can really help out your images. Okay, so hopefully while we've done that, this one's been drying away and we can come back in with a bit of colour. Now obviously at this moment, if you were to spray this, then you are going to colour that texture paste. Okay. If you were to go over the top with blending inks, again you're going to colour that texture paste. If you wanted to keep it as a resist, rather than using texture paste, if you use some of the clear gel, then usually that will act as a resist. Or if you have some of Pretty Gets Gritty's resist texture paste, you can use that. I don't have any of that, else I would shoot it. So, what I'm thinking is obviously we're going to have a flower here, and then I might put one bit more in the distance. But I was thinking it'd be really nice to kind of have them bleeding out a bit. So to do that we need a little bit of water. I'm going to grab my stamp platform, pop in the card. Now this is all media card, so it can take water without too much warping. And I'm going to pop it round the other way for this one, because I want that stamp to kind of be able to almost go off the edge. And if we put it round so it's up here, you're going to be fighting your bar on your stamp platform. Up a bit. Okay, so I'm going to grab my solid stamp again, and let's go that way. Pick that one up. So I'm going to ink it up with the Candied Apple Distress Oxide. Now you want to grab your water spray and you're going to mist that stamp. So you see roughly where my platform is. If I click over a bit, there we go. I want to be a little bit away from it and just spritz it with water. The idea being that then when we close our lid, number one, it's going to blend your ink. but you're also going to get a bit of texture. Okay, now if you want to grab a water brush and blend that out a little bit more, you can do. So for instance, let's get a little watercolour brush. Just because it's outside, I'm going to go for my just like mucky water. Let's grab that. So just slightly dampen your paintbrush, and we can start to pull that colour out in sections. So you don't have to do it all over, but if you want to kind of go, okay, there's going to be lip bits that are going to come out this way. I'm just touching that outline so the colour can start to blend. Let's bring it down this way. If it does start to get too strong for what you want, just wash your brush and then blend it back again. Okay. Now I'm going to move that stamp. It's a good job I don't mind getting messy. And let's pop it over here. And we can do the same again. So still with the candied apple. Water and place it down. Again, get the brush and we can pull that out a little bit. So I'm just going to get those little tail ends and just blend those back out. Okay, not doing it all over, just little sections. So just a little bit there, just so you get the feeling it hasn't just missed out that top edge. So again, grab your bamboo cloth, keep your stamp clean. Make sure that you're drying your stamp platform as well, so that your stamps can stick to it nicely. And I can put it back onto my sheet. Okay, so next, let's grab that one there. And I'm just going to take this so it goes across this way. Now I'm going to go for Rustic Wilderness rather than black this time. And again, you can still use that same misting technique. Okay. And grab your paintbrush again. So do make sure at this point that you've got the red out of your brush. Otherwise when you come to pull this out, it's going to go a lovely shade of brown. So I'm just going to pull colour up along the stem to start with, if there's anywhere where it's just missed. But then we can start to give a bit of an impression of there being leaves that we can't quite see the edges of. And then back into the water and just blend those edges out. A bit more. And let's take this colour here and I'm going to fade it out around that texture paste. So I'm going to let that texture paste stay white if I can help it. Okay. Let's clean my stamp and the platform. And let's pull out some little leaves. So I'm going to go for this one, I think. Like so. And we can decide that we're going to maybe join that one up to this one. So pick it up. I'm going to go back to the Rustic Wilderness, even though it's quite strong. But you can swap in that cracked pistachio if you want to. I'm just going to go for just the two colours in this one, I think. So, just blend in where it joins that main stem. Okay. So again, you can choose one edge to just take that colour out. Maybe take it down from the tip. Okay. So let's just clean that stamp now, and I'm going to line it up again. So this time I'm lining it up so that it connects with our texture paste, but we don't want it to overlap it too much. So do try and keep a little bit of a gap, because it's going to be much easier for you to do that drawing by paintbrush than it is by trying to do it by stamp. So again, just stamping a paintbrush, we're going to take that colour and we're going to push it back towards that stem. Okay, then we can sort out this edge here. And let this colour kind of come out that way. So it's much softer. So at this point you might be thinking, okay, but I can't see where this is going. In your stamp set you have little outline stamps as well. So once this is dry, you can actually stamp back into it with the outline stamps, and that's going to pull it all back together. So one more colour stamp and that's it, and then I will show the outline later, as long as I'm still 100%. If not, I can do it and I'll pop it up on come off. Let's go with this one here. Just fill in that blank bit of colour. Okay. I'm just going to tidy up that edge. Blot some of that water out. There we go. And then let that blend that way. And let this colour come down here, like so. Now if you have a bit of spare ink on your stamp still, we can just put a little bit in at the base of the stem and blend that out. And same here, so a little bit more, like so. And blend that out. Okay, just going to use a bit more of that green just to pull that out a little bit more, just so it starts to look like it should be a bit more like that. Okay, so now you want to let that completely dry before you try and do your outline stamp, so that your outlines stay nice and clean. And hopefully I will see you at 11. Take care for now, and thank you for joining and sitting with me for this hour. And we'll be back a little bit later than 11, so it'll be 11:05 that we'll be waiting for. Okay, so take care, and bye bye for now. There we go, just so you can see it, and then when it dries you'll see the colours do shift a little. Take care, and thank you for watching.